Hello and a warm welcome back here at Feeling Terrific. Today I have another special guest who I really am looking forward to talk to. An ex-colleague of mine. We work together at Adobe. He's still there, so I'm not there anymore. But yeah, I'm glad that he is having the interest in talking to me today about also a very interesting topic, at least from my point of view. How did it come that leaving a company he co-founded to join a bigger corporation, and in his situation it is Adobe, right? So we will talk about that and also other things, but maybe let's start with the first or the most or the hardest question: who are you?
Oh, it's really the hardest question. So first, thanks for having me. Love talking to you on this topic. I'm Anton. I was born and raised in Munich, Germany. I think I know a little bit of kind of everything, but nothing like too well, if that makes sense. So I'm someone who's interested in a lot of things. I've tried out many things over my career and also in my private life. And yeah, I'm now employed for the first time in my life. It's almost 4 years now. I joined in June 2019. I joined Adobe's marketing team in Germany, and yeah, I still love it. And I think we talk a lot about like how different this is to being on your own, being self-employed or co-funding stuff. So yeah, it's super interesting. And I have no idea who I am. I hope this made any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you already mentioned the whole agenda, so everyone knows what's coming. So that's really great. Maybe let's start from the beginning, right? So you at least when I did my due diligence, correct me if I'm wrong, it all started with being a member at Fotojugend Ingolstadt, right? Why did you join there, and how come?
So there's the photo club in Ingolstadt, which is I kind of lied. I was born in Munich, but raised in Ingolstadt, which is like an hour drive north of Munich. And I somehow started photography, and I started loving it. And there is still is this photo club that you have like in many cities where people just come together to do photography for fun, not for business, just for fun. And then together with some others, we kind of started the youth version inside of that club to just try out things. Like everybody was like between, I think like 14 and 17 years old. And we just started things and went to events to do photography, tried to learn. We had a great studio in the city that we could use for free, which was totally awesome. I still remember these days. Like that's where I started. I then moved on to other topics eventually, but it all started with photography and having an awesome set of lovely people in town that I could do it with.
Yeah. What would you say? What role did play intrinsic motivation first to start with photography, right? But also how or what importance does it have for your job nowadays?
I think I'm someone who I only can do things that I really believe in and I feel are right. And it sounds super cheesy. It's like sounds like the typical LinkedIn post, whatever. But I always did or tried to do the things that I love doing. And I always stopped doing things when I felt like that's not true to myself anymore. So I think like at one point on holidays, I tried out a friend's camera. I felt like I could do more of the stuff because I enjoyed it. And so this is what I did. And I wasn't like having a plan of, okay, I start photography now and then I have this career and in 5 years I want to achieve this and in 10 years I want to achieve that milestone. More like just doing stuff and seeing where it ended. And I mean, I started it in a time where I was still in school. So there was less pressure in like making money fast and so on. So I think still today, I just try to do the things that feel right to me. And so far it has really helped my life and my career, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I remember back when we worked together. I mean, as mentioned, we haven't worked in the same department, right? But we saw each other on the floors and etc. I really, yeah, when I think about it, I really could feel your passion for it, and this is something which I also admire in people when they. I mean, there is the charisma, right? The genuinity, if that makes sense, of the people. And yeah, I mean, keep it. And if this is something which guides you, then this is a gift, I would say.
Yeah, totally. And it, I would say it never failed me. At the same time, like it sounds easier than it is. So it's not that my whole, like if you look at my LinkedIn CV or whatever, it can look like, okay, it just made sense. So first this step and then the next and the next and the next. Obviously there was a lot of time in between where I felt like something's wrong. I want to change things, but I had honestly no idea what to do next. So I never had, still don't have this plan where I say, okay, and now I'm here and I want to be there, and what do I need to do to get there? So it was like doing what I loved, and then when I stopped loving the stuff, taking time to figure out what's next. And this, like, sometimes it took 1 or 2 years even to figure out what's next. So it sounds easier than it was. But yeah, I think like it's one of the key things that eventually make you happy also. To be able to change or to choose what you do. I mean, it's at the same time a great privilege, obviously, to be able to do that, and to stop doing things without immediately having to worry about like a loan or stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Maybe let's have a different perspective on intrinsic motivation, right? So you work also currently as a multimedia specialist and soup cook at Soup and Socks EV. Why did you start and why are you still there?
This actually was, I was only there for 2 months. This was a like one of the projects I did that kind of just landed on my table, and I joined that. There was a project where we packed a lot of stuff into a van and then drove to Athens in Greece to cook soup for refugees, actually. And first, I just wanted to join to do like photography and film, and then it became like for myself also to like an understanding of what's, at least a tiny understanding of what's going on in the world. Unfortunately, I'm not still there, but it's one of the things I think that shaped how I see the world, and also how like, I mean, like photography and film, like to that point, don't save the world, but they do have a contribution, which is also true about like the stuff I'm working on now, which is products for people that do this kind of stuff and be creative.
Yeah. How was it for you when you were confronted, yeah, kind of live with refugees and their fates for the first time?
I think I mean, again, sounds super cheesy and basic, but like it really made all of us appreciate the things that we have in life that we never really question, because like the things that you have feel just normal to you. And then like seeing, and I've saw this a couple times in my career. So like somewhere between life and work, where you realize where it hits you that like your version of life is totally different to the lives of many, many, many others who have way more challenges. If that's having to flee a country, if that's any other characteristic that you have that makes you less privileged, is like as a white man growing up in a Western country, it's like the 100% privilege that you can have. So like experiencing this kind of stuff is, I think, really important for understanding what's going on beyond our own horizon.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, and I would also add maybe the point grateful. I mean, it's what you just mentioned, right? But yeah, having the awareness that it's not for granted. Yeah, this is very important. And I think not just from a personal point of view, but also when it comes to a professional point of view, right? I think yeah, you can't be successful if you're not grateful.
True. Yeah. Well said.
So you started being self-employed a few years ago, right? And now you're in a big corporation. But how did it come that you are being self-employed?
Again, like not the big plan that I had. It was just like I was doing photography, and I realized I can make money with it. Like I was doing event photography, like the not the fine arts of photography, more like the service part of being somewhere doing something for like media or companies who host events. I mean, everybody needs good photos of whatever they do. It's still true when we go as Adobe to a conference. Obviously, we need good photos, so we hire a photographer to come with us. So I was doing that for quite a while, and then fell in love with filmmaking and film as an industry, as an art form. And I was actually interning at a serious production in Munich, where like the typical, like, I don't even know, 14, 15-hour days, 5 days a week, like the typical, you're completely immersed in this production for 4 weeks, and then everybody goes their own ways and do the next job. And it was super hard, super exhausting, but I loved it. So I was self-employed, then went to university, and then I met some now very good friends that I co-started a production company with. That we were doing film production based in Bayreuth, where we all studied, and it always felt right to me because I was always in a position where I could make my own decisions. I was free. I was not like, first I was on my own, then I had 3 co-founders. We were all like with parity in all the decision making. So I was one of 4, but like I was one of 4 who could make the decision, and not one of a few thousands. And I always said, like, even a few years ago, I said like I could never be employed in a company because I need this freedom. And then I did some more of that stuff, some more freelancing. I co-founded another company in Berlin later, and now I'm almost 4 years at Adobe. Everything is completely different to being self-employed, but I somewhere in between I realized that there is so much value in having people around you, having specialists for every, like, for example, like talking to you, we were in a completely different role, but I was doing what I could do best, and you were doing what you could do best. And and being self-employed, you have to do everything, no matter what you, like, if you're a creative person, you have to do accounting and all the tax stuff and so on. And now I can do my part, and many, many, many others do their part. And then, like, coming together, it makes something that's bigger. And it's actually pretty close to filmmaking, because like on a film set, you may have, on big ones, like 100 or 400 people. Everybody has their own job. And together you make a movie that's way bigger than what each of the individuals can do. And of course, like, obviously I lost some of the freedom being in a place where I cannot take every single decision. But so far, it's still a great deal, to be very honest. Like, some people ask me like, hey, do you want to go back to being self-employed? And I always think about it and say, no, I'm happy here. And I really am. And I think the second where this changes, I would need to go. Could be, who knows, maybe I will be at Adobe 20 years from now, could super well be. But like, looking back, it was always good to follow like my instinct and my feelings.
Yeah, so that was a lot. So let's try to separate a little bit. Maybe let us come back to what you said in the beginning, right? So first of all, I'm happy that you're still happy at Adobe and that you don't regret the decision, right? Because as you also mentioned, it's a change of lifestyle also, I would say, not just from what you do, but also mentally, and the freedom and everything which comes along, right? But when we have a look at the stations where you were self-employed and co-founded and things like that, right? What did you learn over that time, which still helps you today, but also what shaped you over the time as to the person you are today?
That's a very good question. I think there were so many things that were super hard. Like for example, having, like, as a creative person, having to negotiate with procurement of big companies, which I had never done before. And I was like listening to an audiobook on how to negotiate this kind of stuff. And I was trying to do my best, but I had no idea. I had to learn it, but I had to realize where I hit the boundary. And I think this still helps me today, because I'm someone who loves to try stuff out, and I love to just start something and see where this goes. And at Adobe, that's something that people want, which is great, something the company wants. At the same time, I then realized where I have to give it to someone else, or maybe where it's not a good idea anymore. But the starting stuff that feels right has always worked for me. And being self-employed, you learn this just by having to, and it's super outside the comfort zone. And I did not enjoy many aspects of that, but in the end, I learned a lot. And for example, back to the sales negotiation stuff, which was so different to what I was selling, my actual work. It really helped me realize my value, the value of the company, the value of the services, and how I needed to communicate this value to people who honestly don't really care, because they only look at your quote and say, okay, but you need to do it 20% cheaper. Otherwise we don't book you, because that's their job. They need to buy cheaper stuff, which is totally fine. So it really helped me, understand the bigger picture and try to communicate this in the right way to these clients.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, and I can feel you. I think there are, as you already mentioned, right, accounting, tax, and stuff like that. But I also am convinced regarding the negotiation part. I mean, it's not just that you learn. Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I think it's not just about the learning how to negotiate, but you also grow as a person yourself, right?
Totally. And it, another aspect, and then I come back to that, is being self-employed or being a co-founder of a very small company. You have no idea, at least in our case, this was the case. You don't really know, will you have money in a month from now, half a year from now, because it was always from one gig to the other, from one customer to the other. So you have these calls, and you need to nail this, because you need it to for your company to survive, and for yourself to have money to live. Sounds strange, but really was a big thing. And then messing it up and say, okay, I now realize the way I did it was wrong. And then you learn, or you nail it, and then you have a big contract with a big company, makes you super proud, because you did it, and it took you was an emotional roller coaster, and you learn. I think you really learn very quickly when you have to. So yeah, this is something where you grow incredibly as a person, just because it's such a big feeling of success or failure at the same time, and then bringing this into everything else. And I would hate to do sales. I would not be a great sales guy, but at the same time, I have done it once, and it probably shaped how I do things, even though I'm not in sales anymore.
Yeah. Would you say that that an emotional roller coaster is necessary for personal development?
I think it's probably yes. At the same time, thinking about mental health and burnout. It needs to be like the roller coaster, like if it's a curve going up and down, the peaks shouldn't be super apart from each other, if that makes sense. So it shouldn't be 100% good and then 100% terrible and then up and down again. I don't think that's healthy for you, but on a smaller scale, sure. And I think many people know, like, being a bit unsure in how they do things. I think we all know this to some extent. And then you do something and you make it work, and then you're super proud. And this high brings you to the next level for your own development because you felt what you can do, which is super important. But it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be an emotional roller coaster every single day. I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, no, let's agree to that. What would you say the pressure you had faced during for example, situations like, okay, I have to nail this conversation, otherwise I might not have money in 3 months of now, or my company is not surviving, compared to the situation where you are currently in. So within a big corporation, also obviously you have a high demanding job, you have to nail it, right? What would you say?
It's a huge difference. I think I'm someone who I don't need a lot of money if it's, or in other words, like money's not the main motivational factor for me. Let's put it that way. So being self-employed, I was totally able to, like, if I had less money, I could also spend less and like eat cheaper things. Totally worked for me. Because at the same time, I loved what I do, and this kind of balanced this out. And now it's just something I don't need to worry about anymore. And this is more valuable than I actually thought before. So like being also living in Munich, which is pretty expensive, and knowing like the living part, the stuff that you need to live and to exist in the city is taken care of. It's just something less to worry about. Whereas like being self-employed, and if it's not going that well, for example, it's just another thing that you worry about all day, on top of all the work things you worry about, and maybe even on top of the personal things you worry about. So I think I was more relieved than I expected when I moved to employment. And just know, like, this stuff, like this part of my life is safe now, and I have more room in my brain to do my work and to do my personal life.
Yeah, I'm curious. So obviously self-reflection is also very important, right? And it also led you to the person and to the position you are and you have today. When it comes to the situation, when you're thinking back, when was the moment when you realized that you want to make this change for you? And how did you feel?
I think it's hard to say. I don't think there was one moment, but it was more like over time, a little bit like Inception. Like it starts with a feeling of, oh, maybe that's not the right thing. And then it builds up and builds up and builds up. And at one point I was like, I could imagine working for a company that I like, and that I respect and admire, and just try it out. This was kind of the thing. And Adobe was always on the list for that. I was always like, yeah, a company like Adobe would definitely be one I would try. I'm still amazed that it happened this way, that Adobe was the company to hire me in this situation. But yeah, it was something over time. And then like at one point I was like, okay, like I want to have this change. But then it took a few months probably to find something and to be set and ready to go and everything.
Yeah. When you signed the contract with Adobe, right? How did you feel then?
I was super proud, and I was super happy. Honestly, I also moved from Berlin to Munich with that, and was like a little restart, a work restart. And I was just super looking forward to it. And Adobe was like part of my work life from, I don't know, since I was 16 probably. And also with the last company, I was a partner of the video team at Adobe. So I came into a company where I already knew dozens of people, and I loved all of them. And I was like, hey, like that's very special if you have a group of people in a big company and you like every single one of them. Which is still true. I was just super looking forward to be part of that and to start this new chapter.
Yeah. How were your first weeks and months? So did you also have some doubts during this time, or how did you set yourself up for success also?
I think I wouldn't say doubts. I mean, there was totally days where I was completely lost and like having to navigate the matrix and so on was something I had never done before. And like some parts were super easy, just made sense to me, but there was a lot of stuff I had to learn. And also, I mean, I joined into a marketing role, and it's no secret that I had no marketing, like proper marketing experience before that. So I also had to learn all the marketing specific things on top of like the job that I had. So I didn't question. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I should go back. I never had the situation, but definitely a lot of situations where I felt like I have no idea what I'm doing. And yeah, but like many people feel the same way. And I could talk to a lot of people who made this change. And that was very valuable. And another thing that's better in a company, like you have people to talk to and you're not on your own questioning stuff and feeling unsure. So this definitely made it better.
Yeah, and I mean, you figured it out, right? So you are within your fourth year, if I'm not mistaken. So good for you. So basically, when it comes to Adobe, right? So you mentioned that you admire that company, right? And that you are an intrinsic motivation driven person and purpose driven person. You scratched already a little bit, but why is Adobe fascinating for you?
I think, I mean, very directly, I was using Adobe products all my work life. So starting with photography, I was using Photoshop and Lightroom, and then later for video, I was using Premiere Pro and all of that. So it was always like was the company that helped me do my work and helped me be creative, which was very big. And also a company that made creativity very accessible to the masses. So like 15 years ago, video editing, for example, was super professional. It was really reserved to people with super expensive equipment. Software was super expensive. You had to pay thousands of dollars or euros to get this, and then have the right machine that costed maybe the same amount. And Adobe was one of the companies that really try to make this change, and they did, and they still do. And then also on a personal level, like as I said, I had a partnership with some of the teams already, and it was very, very friendly and respectful. And I just took a lot of value out of these interactions, and so being part of this and like being at least a small part of making the world of like creative software a little bit better and doing something that, I mean, also working on something that literally millions of people use every day is still mind blowing, and was something I still love to do.
Yeah. No, I think the sales team from Adobe is asking for this pitch. They will be happy. But would you say you are a different person now than when you joined Adobe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was also I joined half a year before COVID, so it's still wild that it's 4 years later. It doesn't feel like 4 years, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I was someone who like I tried a lot of things, but I wasn't really set in what I did. And now I have like I have a profile in terms of what I do for work. I have a far bigger network, and also like much more experience in going back to what I said before, to these like boundaries of what I'm good at and what not really. And also it kind of like I that's my third job at Adobe since I joined, and they were also super different. So I kind of kept going from one thing to the other, but in this case without having to change the company, because like as we saw, like you and I, for example, worked in totally different worlds at the same company, and even within marketing, it can be very different, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, that's really great, and leads also to the next question then. What is coming next? So what can we expect? 20 more years within Adobe or another company you will found?
I don't know. That's a very disappointing answer, I know, but I have no idea. And I honestly enjoy having no idea. So it could totally be that in 20 years from now, I'm still here, still at Adobe, do video or whatever it is, whatever new stuff. There will be lots of stuff changing over this time frame. Could be that I'm doing something completely different. I have no idea. I think I'll have to see. But right now, like there's a lot of stuff moving. Like we're in a situation where like there's AI all over the place. Everybody's talking about it. We are working with it a lot. Always like not even new for us. We've started doing it like really years and years ago. But it's just a very interesting time of how creative work evolves and what tasks are being replaced by AI and what new tasks and jobs we will see popping up over the next years. So yeah, it's a space that's super exciting, and let's see.
Let's see, change is ongoing, and that's a good thing. And I'm also happy that about the statement you made, right? That you're happy that you don't know. And I think sometimes that's also a good state of mind. Last question from my side. Self-awareness, self-reflection, mental health, recharging, purpose. Buzzword bingo or what?
I think it's good to talk about it. It's super important. Not only the pandemic, but also the pandemic has changed so much in terms of workload and in terms of how we interact in person, how we interact online. And yeah, I think we sometimes forget that it's like, it can be super exhausting for people, and you like being online also and not in person, you oftentimes don't really know how people are doing. You get another, like it's just different to read a room when you're online versus in person. So we need to talk about it, and workload needs to be reasonable. So yeah, it is both a buzzword and also a very important thing.
Yeah, no, perfect. With having that said, thank you for your time, Anton. I really enjoyed our conversation, and maybe over
Thank
to you for the last words.
Oh, I mean, thanks so much for listening or watching. And yeah, just do whatever feels right to you. And if you're in a situation where you can do it, then you're very lucky, and keep doing it. And yeah, and it's okay to not know things. So yeah, have a great day, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, Anton. Take care, and hope to see you soon again.
Yeah, you too.